All right, I'm going to get started. All right, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Q&A today for the 2025 Economic Mobility and Opportunity Cohort. This is our peer learning cohort in a mini grant program. We're going to have a lot of good information for you today, and we're excited to chat about what it will look like. A quick overview for you, what we're going to be talking about in this Q&A today. First, we're going to go over ICMA's Economic Mobility and Opportunity Initiative. What is economic mobility and opportunity? The details of this year's cohort, of course, previous examples of cohorts and their projects that they've completed, how to apply, and we will have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. All right, and as far as who we all are, we are ICMA staff, a part of the EMO team. I am Anna Mitchell. I'm the Senior Program Manager of Publications and Research, and I'm excited to be with you all here today. Next slide is our previous cohort members. So this is a fun map for you all to see who has been in our cohorts in 2023 and 2024. So we're going to be adding 15 more communities on here. So this time next year, your community's name could be up there, and it would be a great opportunity to get to know you all. New this year, one thing that we will talk a little bit more about later as well is our National Economic Mobility and Opportunity Conference, May 21st through the 23rd in Baltimore. This is the first of its kind that ICMA is putting on this year. And this will actually be the first in-person meeting for the 2025 EMO cohort. So put that on your calendars for those of you who will be selected. For those who aren't selected for the cohort, this is still a great opportunity for you to learn more about economic mobility and opportunity. The conference is free registration. All you have to do is get yourselves there and get yourself registered for a hotel room. But everything else is taken care of for you. So a lot of information there. We're going to drop a link in the chat to the registration. Thank you, Bailey. And we're excited to learn more about this with all of you and have that great experience. And next up, I will pass this along to Laura Gutierrez.
Thanks, Anna. Good afternoon from Michigan, everyone. I'm Laura Gutierrez. I'm ICMA's research director, and I also oversee all of our economic mobility and opportunity programming. So hopefully, as many of you know by now, we have been funded for the last several years to offer this program, been funded by the Gates Foundation, I should say, to offer this programming that's all around building the capacity of our members and their teams to lead on economic mobility and opportunity. And we're a grantee alongside many of our peer organizations, like the National League of Cities, National Association of Counties, other organizations that support local decision makers. But this particular cohort program and mini grant opportunity has been a signature effort of ICMA's, but it really is just one piece of a larger body of offerings that continues to expand. The conference Anna just spoke about being one example, but I'll tease that there are even some new things coming online in the next several weeks and months, both tactical and even larger scale than what we're talking about today. You can go ahead to go to the next slide. We aren't going to go super in depth on, lecturing on this topic for you all, but did want to just do a little bit of level setting about terminology, just since we know, even despite doing this work for several years, that the phrase economic mobility and opportunity might not be one that you're all using in part of your day-to-day work. So borrowing on this slide and the next one from a couple of evidence-based resources that we work with actively as a part of the cohort program and in the rest of our programming. So This first one being what is sometimes called the three-part definition of EMO, economic mobility and upward, economic mobility and opportunity, or upward mobility, as our friends who created this at the Urban Institute call it. But essentially, just acknowledging that while often people think about these terms and immediately go to that middle bullet around economic success, that we think of this more comprehensively, that you need that, but you also need for yourself and your family that feeling of dignity and belonging to your community, and also the sense of power and autonomy and being able to be an active, take an active role in decisions that influence your future. So more on that, the whole comprehensive framework and what follows from that top level definition using the link or the QR code at the bottom there. But just for the sake of time, we'll go on to the next slide. Just getting a little bit more tactical about how this applies to the work that you all do. Just would offer as as you're thinking about how you might how and where you might prioritize this work for your community. You might look at some of these key issue areas and the associated examples that are featured in the Economic Mobility Catalog linked below. And this is a great resource curated by Results for America. We, as a part of, we'll talk about this again in a minute, but as a part of the application for this program, we encourage you to tag your priorities to one or more from this list. It just kind of helps us understand kind of mapping how these things relate to one another across the cohort and across some of these other initiatives that our peer organizations are supporting as well. So that's a rapid run through, but I know you're more here to talk about the nuts and bolts of this, so I'll pass it back to, I think, Anna.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier, before someone asks the question in the chat, yes, we are recording this, and yes, we will provide the recording and the slides for you all later, so you can reference that at a later date while you're filling out the application and such, so you'll have that as a resource. So a few of our peer learning cohort basics. What we are looking for is 15 local governments, so cities, towns, counties, etc., for the 2025 cohort. And we are looking for 2 participants per local government. One of the participants has to be an ICMA member, and one of the participants has to be the CAO, so the chief administrator or the assistant chief administrator. So your city manager, assistant city manager, county manager, assistant county manager, administrator, either one of those 2. One person can be both of those things. So that is what we're looking for the 2 participants per local government. The other participant can be any other person on staff of your local government. They can be a community member, a chamber member, a council member, an elected official, anyone within your community that would contribute the most to this experience. Being part of the cohort, each community will receive a $20,000 grant for the implementation of an economic mobility and opportunity centered project. And we'll get more into that in a bit on what that could look like. There will be 2 in-person meetings. The first will be at the EMO conference this upcoming May. And the second will be in December. Location to still be determined, but we will keep you all updated on that. Those travel expenses will be paid for. We will include an additional $4,000 on top of the $20,000 grant. So this will be a total of $24,000. So you all can make sure that you can get there without having to spend any additional funds from your own budgets. For the in-person meetings, we do expect that the same 2 people attend both in-person meetings. There obviously are things that happen in life, and we understand if that changes, but that is the expectation. And then a few of you did ask in the registration for this Q&A if more than 2 people can come to the meetings. So for the first in-person meeting for the conference, That is fine with us. More than two people can come, mainly because the conference is free. We encourage you to bring your team. For the second in person meeting, that's something that we will need to evaluate based on budget, location, and everything like that. So we'll save that conversation for later. We will also have monthly virtual check ins and trainings. So we'll have conversations about what you're working on. You can bring forth questions. We'll bring forward trainings for you all on different things that you will need for your community. So those are things to look forward to. Application expectations. So to apply to be part of the cohort, you do have to be a US local government entity and identify a team of two participants. Like I said before, those two participants, one of them has to be the CAO or ACAO. And then there also must be one ICMA member within the two. So use of the grant funds. So typical projects for the $20,000 can include an economic mobility and opportunity assessment, an equity assessment, a strategic plan of some kind for your community, or any kind of engagement process. We also have communities that have put together programs of classes for their communities, financial classes, and everything like that. Steve, my coworker, will go into a bit more detail later on in this presentation on what other cohort members have done. So some good examples coming your way on that. Focus areas such as childcare access, community health, workforce housing, anything that you can think of that can impact the economic mobility and opportunity of an individual within your community. We are open to talking about with your application. Eligible costs for the $20,000 would typically include, of course, but not limited to, your core personnel time, so your hourly wages, paying for a consultant to do a strategic plan or community engagement, and any costs associated with implementing the project that you have indicated to be part of the cohort. So when you were looking at the application, of course, we also have all of this information online in a downloadable PDF, the request for applications. You can find that at icma.org/EMO. And so all of this information, plus all of the specific questions that will be asked of you, are on that document. So you can be a bit more prepared when you go to apply. So a sneak peek into what's in the application. We're going to be asking you how your local government currently prioritizes economic mobility and opportunity. And when we're talking about that, a lot of times it's not with that specific narrative. So even if you haven't been specifically talking about EMO, we understand, and obviously there are several different ways to talk about economic mobility and opportunity. And so telling us how you have been able to prioritize that within your community is something that we are looking at. And of course, we are not necessarily saying that if you haven't done EMO specifically, you won't be part of this cohort. That's just additional information that helps us select the 15. You'll also be asked what your current challenges and barriers are within your community and your anticipated focus areas for your proposed work plan. So, what your barriers are, what you're wanting to accomplish, so that you can contribute to the upward mobility of your community. And then, of course, how your local government would spend that $20,000 in grant funds. There's a few other questions, some contact information as well. Nothing out of the ordinary. But again, if you want to see those questions in full before you hit that apply here button, those are in the downloadable RFA, request for applications, on that webpage. So selection criteria. So when you apply and when we all take a look at your application, the main things that we are looking at is the strength of participation of your team, your staff capacity, your projected impact of the participation, and then of course, again, your demonstrated commitment to improving the lives of your community, the upward mobility of your community members. Overall, we are looking to create a cohort that is representative of several different factors. Geographic, when we're looking at that map, we don't want it to be clustered all in one location. Demographic and economic diversity. So we're looking for rural communities. We're looking for metropolitan communities, small, large, medium. We're trying to create the most diverse cohort as possible so that when we're doing peer learning, we have all of the different voices at the table to make sure that we move forward, learning more from each other. We're also looking for a range of communities that have an understanding of economic mobility, people who have worked within EMO specifically, and people who have no idea what it is. So we're looking for a full range of communities to build out this cohort. Of course, being part of the cohort and receiving a grant from ICMA, there will be contract requirements. And throughout this process, we do expect that it will require quite a quick turnaround time. Obviously, as you have probably seen with the first in-person meeting being the end of May, we will need to have quite a few pieces of paperwork that will be sent your way to be filled out and completed before that $4,000 travel funds can be issued to your local government to be used for travel funds. So just enter into that with the expectation that the contracting process will need a quick turnaround time. Upon selection, local governments will be required to complete a subgrant agreement process, and then just one piece of, of many that will be part of the contract. I know the biggest question or the biggest highlight of the contract is when are we getting the money? So it'll be in two payments. The first will be 19,000. It'll be the first 15,000 for your project and the 4,000 for your travel funds. That'll be issued after we get a full work plan and budget for what you are wanting to complete within your time for the cohort. And then the second payment of $5,000 will be issued after we receive the final report and final budget at the end of the cohort time, which is anticipated end of December. All right. Lots of information. And again, all of this information is in that request for applications that you can download on our webpage. And of course, you can always reference back to this webinar. Next, I will kick it off to Steve, and he will take us into a few examples.
Hi, everyone. And it is so great to be with you all. I'm Steve King. I am the Senior Program Manager for Training and Technical Assistance here at ICMA. And I am incredibly appreciative for all of your interest in this program. As you can see, that was showed earlier, there's a great mix of diversity in past communities who have participated in our program. So I'll be talking to you a little bit about the projects that have been completed over the last 2 years. Much like the communities, these projects are unique. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about maybe some ideas that you might want to consider for a project that you might ultimately end up going and executing. Next slide. So a few items or a few communities that we want to highlight is El Paso, Texas did a lot of work around both childcare services and workforce development as well as homelessness. They really spent time really working with their community partners to really understand gaps in services and how the community can kind of coalesce around folks that were really in need of support. And so while I'll be talking about these communities, I wanted just to plant that really we see two types of projects. We see studies and then we also see programmatic initiatives. And so Gaithersburg is an example of a more programmatic approach. They took the resources to do a partnership with their financial empowerment center and a local elementary school that is primarily with Spanish-speaking residents, and really spent time working with those residents to build their financial literacy and make that investment. We also have seen communities like Newton, Kansas, who really wanted to understand the lived experience of their Hispanic residents and how the city could better meet their needs. And so they worked in partnership with a local nonprofit and a university to conduct a survey, really in community engagement with these residents to really understand how the city can better meet their needs. And so that's just as an opportunity to kind of ground it in some past experiences that we've seen. Next slide. All right. We think that maybe the best way to really showcase what's happening and really what other communities are doing is this video that we've put together from our last cohort in 2024.
Growing up in an economically stagnant situation, seeing now today's community going through similar challenges, and it's alarming.
Some of the issues that are plaguing our community: attainable housing, childcare,
Transportation,
financial literacy, education,
and access to good jobs, especially for folks who have not always been able to access those jobs. We're facing a lot of similar problems.
it's definitely a call for action.
Wasn't aware of some of the research that's already been done. So it's helpful to know those resources are available.
Our city is committed to being a data-based decision maker, and it's a hard thing to do. So it's helpful to see a broader range of sources and to hear how other cities are using data both in their decision making and in their communication.
Economic mobility for me means giving our community a chance.
To me, it means opportunity, empowerment, and helping our community to grow and stay in the place that they love and call home.
How to bring poor people up, or middle class folks, where they're able to generate wealth instead of constantly generating debt.
To me, mean giving people the opportunity and the toolkit to be able to improve their life by being more financially stable.
to move up the social ladder, move up the real estate ladder, and grow some equity and investment.
Helping our community who have been historically disenfranchised have opportunities for improving their household income, having the lifestyle that they'd love to have, giving them multiple chances to pursue a career or a business or something that would help them to support their household, support their family, do all the great things that our community and our state and country have to offer.
Here we have an opportunity to share with each other, build upon each other's success and non-success, and make it more efficient, get the programs implemented.
The ideas that they're already bringing, thinking about how they're leveraging funding sources to get to that goal has been amazing.
I love that I was able to learn frameworks and lessons.
What works in one community may not work in another, but together, collectively, hey, I like this about that, or hey, that's a similar problem we've had. To see how others have, addressed it makes us not have to recreate the wheel.
I feel invigorated and convicted that I have the capacity to bring this to my community and really make a difference with my colleagues and with the support of my city.
This is one of those opportunities that really lets you be part of a generational change.
All right. Well, with that being said, we'll move on to our next presenter.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Celeste. I'm an assistant program manager at ICMA with the Economic Mobility and Opportunity team. So how to apply. If you follow the URL that you see listed here, icma.org, EMO, you'll find all of our application materials on our landing page. So you can not only download the request for application PDF, but you can also access a direct link to the online form for your application. If you do have any questions while you're filling out this application, please feel free to email us at emo@icma.org and someone will get back to you as quickly as possible. When you do access that online form, you'll see this message right here for you, and it just has some important information about the application itself. When you are going through the application, do note that you can go back after you have submitted it. You can go back and make revisions as needed up until the deadline of March 28th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, as mentioned previously, the application is currently open. You can go back and revise that application up until that date, March 28th. And this is going to be a pretty quick process after the communities have been selected. So here are some dates that are subject to change, but we'll give you a general understanding of the flow of being part of the Economic Mobility 2025 cohort. So the first convening will be at the EMO conference in Baltimore. And then after that, between June and November, that is when you'll be convening together virtually in monthly meetings. You'll be implementing your project or your assessment in your communities. And then in December, we're anticipating December 10th through 12th, but as stated, that is subject to change. We will convene one last time in person and we'll go over your final projects. And I will pass it on over to Anna to close us out.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Celeste. That is all of the information that we have prepared for you today. Here's the Q&A portion. So in just a second, I'll go through all of the questions that have been placed in the Q&A. Just to hit it home, apply online at icma.org/EMO. Again, our application deadline is March 28th. And of course, email emo@icma.org if you have any questions. So I am going to go real quick through the questions that have come through on the Q&A. First one, can one, I assume, of the team members be the director of the department that houses community and economic development? Absolutely. So as long as one person of your team is the CAO or ACAO, the other person can also be another staff member, the director of your local economic development chamber or anything like that. So yes. Laura, did you want to chime in on that one?
Nope, I'm just trying to clear them out of the queue,
okay.
so I don't know if that did something on your end. Nope,
it just
perfect answer.
Perfect. Okay. Can you have more than 2 team members? So as far as the in-person and the virtual experiences that we have on a monthly basis, as far as 2 team members, that is what we require. And of course, we can have further conversations for that second in-person meeting. As far as who works on this at your community, we most definitely expect that more than 2 people will be working on it. So if you have any more specific questions on that, I'm sure we can answer those as well. In past cohorts, how many applications did you receive? So we have previously received around 50 to 75 applications. We do anticipate that to remain the same for this one as well. How do you foster sharing of continual lessons learned from all the communities active in this work? As far as the cohort, that is what is virtually what we do on a monthly basis. If your all is considered all of our previous members, as well as any other economic mobility centered projects. We do have all of their previous works and information on our webpage, icma.org/emo. And then, of course, as well as the case studies, RFA has a lot of great, it has a catalog full of success stories that can be referenced as well. All right. Would you be willing to select a council of governments? So previously we have said no to this one. We do select one specific. So sorry, everyone. I went out and came back in. So apologies for that one. I forgot which question I was on. The Council of Governments. Sorry about that. So for the Council of Governments, we do require that it is a local government that applies. So unless
I would
Laura...
say though, just given that there can be some, unique nuances, I wouldn't say no to any of these for now. I mean, just why don't you follow up with us? Because I see the working income in tandem with a local government piece of that question. And so I just better understand what's envisioned there. It's possible that that could work.
Thank you, Laura. No, you're good. Next, can you talk a little bit more about the requirement that a top executive needs to participate as one of the two people? Is there any substitute for that, such as someone appointed by a local government executive? So because ICMA, our membership is primarily for city, county managers, we do require that one of the two team members is an ACO or an ACAO or a CAO position, just because we want to make sure that this project is seen as a priority in your local government. So obviously as the second team member, anyone that is also within your community can be the second team member, but we do require that one needs to be the assistant or the manager. Are pilot projects eligible? Absolutely. So it depends on what that pilot project is. But yes, we have had pilot projects for your communities previously. So to confirm, though anyone can register for the May conference in Baltimore, but only selected cities will receive travel stipends. Correct. So anyone can register for the National Economic Mobility and Opportunity Conference in May. It is open to all communities, anyone who's interested in economic mobility and opportunity to register. Registration is free. And for anyone who attends that, they do have to pay for travel and pay for their hotels. But if you are selected to be part of the cohort, you will receive a $4,000 stipend to help you travel to and from that first in-person meeting that happens to also be at the EMO conference. And that $4,000 will also be needed to cover the second in-person meeting in December.
Hey, Anna, is it okay? Because I think this happened right around when you're, which is usually my end that happens. But I just wanted to, if possible, go back to Tom's question about the peer learning aspect. Just to reiterate, there's a lot of ways that we've done this in the past, and I think there's a lot of room to even intensify that. It's a little bit of like you get what you put into it, but you've seen the map a couple of times here of the growing network of communities. So we're going to be selecting 15 that will be their own cohort, but we see this as a part of a growing alumni network as well. So the examples were offered about through the presentations, we ask you to prepare for discussions we ask you to facilitate or participate in the in-person convenings as well as the virtual meetings. There's some sharing obviously there. There's stuff that we, do a little bit more heavy lifting on in terms of documenting what you're learning and your successes and challenges, and sharing those through our different communications channels. We do have our member only online discussion space via ICMA Connect. But there's other things that we haven't even yet done. So we see this as a really important aspect of the work, not just the funding of the individual projects in your local community. So I'm glad that the question was asked, and we welcome ideas to do even better at that aspect of the program.
Thanks, Laura. Next question. Can boards and commission members be one of the team members? Absolutely. As long as the other team member is an ICMA member and or an ACAO or CAO, the second one can definitely be someone who is on a board or commission. Does the grant project have to be completed by December? Correct, yes. So this project, assessment, study, whatever is proposed, it does have to be completed within the period of performance of the contract, which will end December 31 of 2025.
And just to add on to that, all correct, and because obviously, you're not changing systems in 6 months, that we encourage you to think big about how this scales into longer term and larger initiatives. But yeah, as Anna suggested, the spending of the $20,000 on something, even if it is sort of a foundational study that is almost like a preliminary step in your work, we ask you and we help you with this, but define sort of an endpoint around that end of year mark. But we don't expect nor encourage the work to stop there, if that makes sense.
Agreed. Absolutely. All right. Why do we require the CAO to be one of the team members? So that's, again, as we are ICMA, our membership, this is our audience, and we want to make sure that with the involvement of the manager or the assistant manager, that tells us that this is a priority to your community and it's not just a random grant that you've applied to. And so the involvement of the manager or assistant manager is something that tells us that you have a strong staff capacity and a strong commitment to completing this project. All right. So more than 2 can join the monthly virtual meetings. We do ask that only 2 join, but if you have like a previous project or something like that, or you think someone can definitely benefit, we do encourage that you bring additional people, not like 10, but if you have a few more that are specifically working on the project, and they are most definitely welcome. Laura, did you have anything additional?
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say more than 2, yes, but you're right. I mean, we want to keep it balanced. So 10 would be probably overkill, but I think the key thing is we are looking for, as Anna's talked a lot about, the 2 core consistent participants across, the in-person and the virtual, and like you said, yes, bringing in additional project specific staff, totally fine within reason. But yeah, those, the 2 persona requirements that she talked about are really key for us. Sorry, thanks.
No, you're good. Thank you. Next question. What's the population of the smallest previous cohort? I think we've had as small as
real small.
10,000 or less. Less. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Like 5-ish. I mean, we have, and we've had, El Paso County obviously is the other end of the spectrum. So we recognize that among, ICMA member-led communities, they skew towards the smaller side, and that's exactly a great fit for this opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. Can we have both county and city collaboration? I'll reserve that for give us an email and we can talk through specifically what that could look like. but we're open to talking more about that potentially. Is this ICMA program an annual program? So this is the third annual program that we have done. As far as any future programs, we don't have any current plans, but there's always a potential for that to happen again. So if you're not selected for this year, please do continue to have an ear and eye open for any future potential partnerships as well. Can you elaborate on demonstrated commitment on the selection criteria if an entity is conducting an assessment to better understand one of these economic drivers? For example, how might they demonstrate commitment? So this can be through policies or procedures that your council has previously implemented, any visions or goals that you already have implemented within your community. If you have any strategic or overall strategic plans that include any similar language to economic mobility and opportunity, that can also be seen as demonstrated commitment. Something that tells us that this isn't, or that this is something that you hold as a priority within your community and that you're committed to working on in the future. Laura, did you have anything additional to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think that anonymous attendee this question came from kind of answered their own question. I mean, if you're conducting such a thing, that would seem like a pretty clear indication of a level of commitment. But just to paraphrase too, I think with that as part of the application, and we said we've said throughout this that we understand you may not be using, this precise language to talk about your work right now. But if you're able to, in, I forget, 1,000 characters or whatever we give you, or words, just articulate how you see, things that you already have on the book, so to speak, connecting to these frameworks and concepts that we've presented. It doesn't need to be that you have, a formal many-page economic mobility and opportunity, plan or policy that everyone has to sign in blood. I mean, we again recognize that just even like that specific example about beginning to assess some things is a commitment to kind of beginning a journey.
Great, thanks. All right. Does the project need to be completed within a certain time frame? Yes, December 2025. But again, like Laura said before, obviously with an assessment or a study, you're going to have action items that far surpass this December. So we encourage you to really figure out what is actually attainable within this time period. So completing the study can be definitely done by the end of the year, or one portion of a study that you've already done. So really put some thought into what can be accomplished within the next or this year and go from there. Since the application closes after the May conference, do you mean selected? So the application closes March 28th, and then the conference is end of May. So we will have about 6 to 8 weeks in between those. Can we use the funds as a planning grant to support aligning efforts being done individually? Potentially. So this would definitely be one of those, let's have a longer conversation of what specifically you're trying to do. But we have had at least one previous mini grant project with our 2023 cohort, I believe, where they provided mini grants to small businesses. So it is a possibility, but that's definitely something that we can talk through in a little bit more detail offline. Okay, that's all the questions that are in the Q&A box. I'll give it another minute, but just as an overview, we're excited to get this going. We're excited to see your applications come through. Thank you so much for your time and being here with us today. Again, I do believe Laura popped in the chat the link to these slides. And then, of course, there's a lot of other links in that chat as well. And then once this recording, or once we complete this, the recording will also be emailed out to you before the end of the week. So if you have, does your character, okay, one more that came in. Does your character limit include spaces? I assume in the application, I do believe it does include spaces. And other things that you can put in there as well as links. So if you have like a strategic plan that you want to reference, you can link it to that strategic plan. That's also helpful. A couple more that have come through. Can I use the money for a safety initiative for my city, like new streetlights? Potentially. It depends on how you frame it. So how can safety be implemented, or safety, how can this be used to contribute to the upward mobility of an individual? So if you can go through our basic list that we have in the RFA of topics and figure out a way for that to fit into that, you can always try and you can always apply and have more conversations with us, but potentially. Do you recommend talking to your staff before we submit our application? Only if you have any additional questions. Please do reach out if you have any questions. And we're happy to chat with you. If you need to bounce some ideas or anything like that, we are all happy to help you out in that way. Okay, we will take a look at that direct link for the slides, and we will make sure to include that in the email that goes out with the recording link as well. So you'll still have access to that. So we will fix it. Can we use this mini grant to plan a strategic financial plan for our municipality? I'm hoping to be your smallest yet. Again, potentially. So as far as how this can contribute to the upward mobility of your community, how you frame it is how we see it. So definitely take a look at previous community cohort projects and see if there's a way that you can frame this project so it would then potentially contribute to the upward economic mobility and opportunity of your community. All right. We'll hang out for another minute or so. That's all the questions that are in the chat right now. Again, thank you so much. And please be on the lookout for an email from us before the end of the week with recording and slides and any other additional information and reminders. Thank you so much. Have a great day.